The observation deck of the Celestial Harmony hummed with the soft vibration of antimatter engines, a sound that had become William's lullaby over the past 3 months. He stood before the panoramic viewport, watching the swirling nebula of Sector 7 Gamma paint the darkness with impossible colors, violet bleeding into emerald, shot through with veins of gold that no earthbound artist could have imagined. "You're starring again, human." William didn't turn. He'd learned to recognize Maya's approach by the subtle shift in air pressure her bioluminescent skin created, the faint ozone scent that accompanied her species' natural electrical field. "It's called appreciation, Maya. You should try it sometime." Behind him, he heard the clicking sound that passed for amusement among the Zelnari. Maya moved to stand beside him, her tall, slender frame towering over his by nearly a foot. Her skin rippled with patterns of deep blue and silver, what he'd come to recognize as her contemplative state. "I need to ask you something," she said, her voice carrying that melodic quality that made even simple statements sound like poetry. "And I need you to understand that it's purely transactional." William raised an eyebrow, finally turning to face her. 3 months as the only human aboard an intergalactic diplomatic vessel had taught him that purely transactional among aliens rarely stayed that way. "I'm listening." Maya's luminescence shifted to amber nervousness, he'd learned. "The Convergence Summit begins in 4 rotations. As you know, my family holds significant political influence among the Zelnari. What you don't know is that I've been misrepresenting my situation to them." "Let me guess," William said, crossing his arms. "You told them you had a mate." Her skin flashed bright orange surprise. "How did you?" "Maya, I've attended 3 holocalls with you where you very conspicuously changed the subject every time your mother asked about your personal life. I'm observant, not stupid." She made that clicking sound again, but this time it carried a note of what might have been embarrassment. "The issue is more complex. Among my people, attending the Convergence unmated past one's 3rd decade is seen as a failure, a suggestion that one is too difficult, too independent, too unwilling to compromise for the collective good. And you're afraid it'll damage your family's standing," William concluded. "Worse, it will prevent me from being taken seriously in the negotiations. The Convergence isn't just political theater, William. We're deciding the fate of 14 star systems, including trade routes that affect Earth. If I'm dismissed as an immature outlier, the human proposals I've been championing will die with my credibility." William studied her face, so alien yet somehow readable after months of close quarters. The Zelnari had features that reminded him of deep-sea creatures from Earth, all elegant angles and light-refracting surfaces. But he'd learned to read the micro-expressions, the subtle shifts in her bioluminescence that betrayed emotions her culture trained her to hide. "So you want me to pretend to be your mate?" he said. "Yes." The word came out quickly, almost desperately. "My family knows I've been working closely with the human diplomat. It wouldn't be entirely unbelievable. Interspecies bonding is rare but not unheard of. 4 rotations of public appearances, formal dinners, perhaps some strategic hand-holding. Then the Convergence ends, we stage an amicable separation, and both our careers continue unimpeded." William should have said no. Every instinct screamed that this was a terrible idea. But he thought about the trade agreements, the antimatter fuel rights, the terraforming technology Earth desperately needed. He thought about how hard Maya had fought for humanity's interests when the Crometh delegation had tried to exclude Earth entirely. "What would this entail exactly?" he asked. Relief washed over her in a wave of soft green light. "Nothing inappropriate by human standards, I assure you. Some physical proximity, public displays of mutual regard, shared quarters for appearances. My culture's bonding rituals are primarily emotional and intellectual rather than physical." "Primarily?" She hesitated. "There is the resonance ceremony on the final evening. We would need to undergo a neural sync, Temporary, harmless, but intimate. Our thoughts would be partially accessible to each other for approximately 1 standard hour. You want to read my mind. And you would read mine. It's mutual, William, transparent. The ceremony is public specifically because it proves genuine connection. We would need to prepare, practice coordinating our thoughts, finding common ground to make the sync convincing. William walked back to the viewport, his mind racing. A neural sync. The technology existed. Humanity had encountered it in various forms across the galaxy, but it was deeply personal. Thoughts, memories, emotions laid bare. Even for an hour, even controlled, it was the kind of intimacy that changed people. If I agree, he said slowly, we do this properly. No half measures. If we're going to convince your family and the Convergence delegates, we need to be convincing. That means actually spending time together, actually getting to know each other beyond work. Maya's colors shifted through confusion towards something that might have been hope. You're negotiating the terms of a fake relationship. I'm suggesting that if we're going to lie, we base it on as much truth as possible. We already work well together. We respect each other. Let's build on that rather than construct something entirely fictional. For a long moment, Maya was silent, her bioluminescence cycling through patterns he couldn't quite interpret. Then she extended her hand, a gesture she'd learned from him, he realized with a strange flutter in his chest. 4 rotations, she said. We have 4 rotations to become convincing mates. He took her hand. Her skin was cooler than human, smooth like polished stone but somehow alive with that constant, subtle electrical current. Then we'd better start now. The next 4 rotations passed in a blur of calculated intimacy that felt increasingly less calculated with each passing hour. They started with the basics, learning each other's mannerisms, matching their breathing patterns, studying the micro-expressions that would signal genuine comfort. Maya taught him the Zelnari gesture vocabulary, the tilt of the head that meant affection, the specific luminescence pattern that indicated pride in one's partner. But somewhere between the formal lessons and the staged holocalls to her family, something shifted. William found himself actually enjoying their late-night conversations in the observation deck, where Maya would drop her diplomatic, carefully crafted persona and talk about her childhood on the crystal seas of Zelnara Prime. She spoke of pressure, familial, cultural, political, with a weariness he recognized from his own climb through Earth's diplomatic core. Maya discovered that William's dry humor wasn't a defense mechanism, but genuine joy in finding absurdity in the universe's grand complexity. She caught herself seeking his opinion on matters unrelated to their charade, valuing his perspective in ways that had nothing to do with political necessity. The physical proximity became natural, his hand finding hers during a tense negotiation prep session. Her unconscious drift toward him in crowded spaces, her bioluminescence brightening when he entered a room. On the evening before the Convergence, as they sat in their now shared quarters reviewing the ceremony protocols, William looked up from his data pad to find Maya watching him, her colors a complex mixture he'd never seen before. "What?" he asked. "I was wrong," she said quietly. "When I proposed this arrangement, I calculated the political benefits, the career advantages, the strategic positioning. What I didn't calculate was that you would become important to me." William's throat went dry. "Maya, I know. This was supposed to be transactional, temporary. I'm not asking you to reciprocate or to change our agreement. I simply thought you should know, before we undergo the resonance tomorrow, that what began as deception has become the most genuine connection I've experienced in my life." He should have kept his distance, should have reminded her this was all pretend. Instead, he closed the gap between them, taking her hands in his. "What if I told you," he said carefully, "that somewhere between teaching you how to make coffee and learning your language's 17 words for starlight, I stopped pretending entirely?" Her bioluminescence flared brilliant gold, pure, unfiltered joy. "Then I would say," Maya whispered, "that tomorrow's resonance ceremony will be far more honest than I ever intended." The Convergence Hall was a marvel of gravitational architecture, a space where delegates from 40 species gathered under a dome that showed real-time views of the galaxies they represented. William stood beside Maya in formal attire, human diplomatic dress for him, traditional Zelnari bonding robes for her that made her skin's luminescence even more striking. The resonance ceremony was both more and less than he'd imagined. The neural sync device was elegant, almost organic, grown rather than built from some technology humanity was still decades from understanding. As the mediator placed the connection points at their temples, William felt Maya's hand tighten in his. "Are you afraid?" Her thought came through clear as speech but layered with emotion, nervousness, excitement, fierce protectiveness. Terrified, he admitted, and felt her amusement ripple through the link, but not of this, of what comes after. The sync deepened, and suddenly he was experiencing her memories, the pressure of family expectations, the loneliness of being different, the moment she'd first seen him and thought, here is someone who might understand. And she was seeing his. The years of clawing his way to respect in a field that didn't value his perspective, the quiet desperation of competence without connection, the shock of finding both in the most unlikely place. But more than memories, there were feelings. Her growing affection, carefully hidden, his own defensive walls crumbling. The exact moment they'd each realized this stopped being pretend, for her, when he'd stayed up all night helping her prepare a presentation to the Kramath. For him, when she defended humanity's right to the convergence table with a passion that cost her political capital. The ceremony reached its crescendo, their synchronized thoughts creating patterns of light in the air above them, visible proof of genuine resonance, of minds and hearts in true alignment. The assembled delegates responded with their various species expressions of approval, but William barely noticed. He was too busy drowning in the revelation of being truly known and still wanted. When the sync released them, they stood swaying slightly, still holding hands, staring at each other with new understanding. "Well," Maya said aloud, her voice unsteady, "that was decidedly not transactional." William laughed, the sound echoing through the hall. "No, no, it wasn't." Her mother approached, tall and regal, her colors cycling through what William now recognized as approval mixed with suspicion. "That was quite the display, almost convincing enough to make me believe this isn't a political arrangement." Maya's luminescence shifted to defiant red. "Mother, I need to tell you something." "It's not an arrangement," William interrupted, squeezing Maya's hand. "Not anymore. Maybe it started that way, but what you just witnessed, that was real, all of it." The silence that followed was deafening. Then Maya's mother made a sound William had never heard from a Zelnari, something like a laugh, warm and knowing. "Good," she said simply. "I was beginning to worry my daughter had forgotten how to be surprised by life. Welcome to the family, human. Try to keep up." As she glided away, Maya turned to William, her colors cycling through every shade of happiness her species could express. "So," she said, "I believe we need to renegotiate our agreement." "Oh," William pulled her closer, no longer caring who was watching. "What did you have in mind?" "Something permanent, something real, something that terrifies me as much as it exhilarates me." He smiled, feeling the last of his careful defenses crumble. "Funny, I was going to suggest exactly the same thing." Above them, through the dome, the galaxies wheeled in their eternal dance. Countless stars, infinite possibilities, and two people who'd found each other in the vastness, by pretending to be something they'd accidentally become. Maya had wanted him to play her mate. Neither of them had counted on it becoming the truest thing in either of their lives. But as William would later reflect, the best lies are always built on foundations of unexpected truth. The end.